Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports on Converge Media. Of course, as always, I am your host with you, Charles Hamaker, here in the Black Media Matter studio. Had a week off, had to record from within an office at the WeWork, but, you know, it's how it goes sometimes. You could say the same thing for the struggles of some of our Seattle sports teams in recent memory, mainly looking at the soccer teams, unfortunately. That is also just how it goes sometimes, maybe not so much with them. It's continued struggles to begin the season. The Seahawks had the draft this past week. The Mariners continue as they got back home for a 6-game homestand that will continue into the next week. The Storm are beginning training camp. They began it actually yesterday, Sunday, April 28th. And there's a few other things that we will be looking at. But, of course, as always, like we do all the time, we begin with our Seahawks and we go right into it with the NFL draft. So the NFL draft, it was interesting for the Seahawks as they only had 2 picks within the first 3 rounds. Tough because the second round can really be an area where some guys slip into. Obviously, you can get steals or so every round of the draft, but the second round can really be an area that some guys who were considered first round talent slip into. And Seattle, talked about moving into that second round, but ultimately did not. So we'll look at the draft pick by pick here. Round 1. So the big one, there was a lot of talk about what the Seahawks would do with the 16th overall pick. They ended up going with defensive tackle Byron Murphy, the second out of the University of Texas. Big guy up the middle. And I say big, but, there's some videos of him working out at Texas where he's a very nimble athlete. So really exciting to see what Mike Macdonald and the defensive staff will be able to do with Byron Murphy the second. Was viewed as, the best defensive tackle in this draft, and for a squad that's really trying to re-identify itself, create its own identity, and stop the run as they've struggled to do, at least Seattle has in the past few years. Getting a guy like Murphy up the middle could really be a big help to that. Round 3, pick number 81 overall, the team went with offensive guard Christian Haynes at the University of Connecticut, UConn. So with the first 2 picks that they have in this draft, they went in the trenches, which, if you're looking at this team and you really want to improve it for a consistent on a consistent basis for years to come, filling out the trenches is a good idea. The interior offensive line for the last few years for Seattle has really been kind of hit or miss, not a lot of consistency there, not the best play up the middle of the offensive line for Seattle. So solidifying that will be great. And Haynes, at least in his time at UConn, primarily played the right guard position, an area, again, of need for Seattle. So nice to see that there. He could be a day 1 starter. In the 4th round, the team had 2 picks. Seattle did make a trade during the 4th round. And it was all just pick related. Seattle did not have their 7th round pick, sorry. So 2 picks in the 4th round for Seattle. At pick 118, they went with linebacker Tyrese, we'll get it right. Tyrese Knight out of the University, out of UTEP. Knight's interesting. Knight really improved over the course of his college career, year by year. Can improve in coverage, but really was a tackle machine at UTEP. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's able to fit into this defense. As a team that was looking to fill at the outside linebacker position the last few years at least, we'll get guys back like Uchenna Nwosu from injury this past year. And then you can sign guys like Jerome Baker, Terrell Dodson in the offseason, but to short-term deals. So it's going to be interesting to see how Mike Macdonald, the defensive staff, talk about the defensive staff and what they're going to do with this defense, how they're going to build for the future, and Knight could be a part of that. So 3 picks later, with the 121st overall pick in the 4th round, the team went with tight end A.J. Barner out of Michigan. Michigan, not really a pass-heavy offense, and Barner's really more of an inline tight end. He's a guy that's going to help in the run game, in the blocking game. I mean, he's shown some ability in the pass-catching game, but not a whole lot. So don't expect him to be necessarily a big guy that's going to be viewed as a weapon in the pass game. More of an inline guy, kind of what you're used to with this Seahawks offense at the tight end position. In the 5th round, the team only had one pick in the 5th round, pick 136. They went with cornerback don't know how to say Mr. Pritchett's first name, but we will get that as well. Out of the University of Auburn. Pritchett's fun. Pritchett's a 6-foot-tall corner. He's got great speed. I believe it was 4.28 speed in the 40-yard dash. So really interested to see there. There's some question marks at the defensive back position for the Seahawks. Obviously, look at Devon Witherspoon. That's big. Julian Love's coming back. But, you signed Rayshon Jenkins in the offseason. But you're going to have to make a few decisions in the upcoming years with some guys whose contracts are going to be up and at least going into the future as well. So we go into the 6th round. The Seahawks had 3 6th-round picks, starting at the 179th overall pick, tackle Satoa Lomoa out of Utah. Again, we'll get some of these right. Out of the University of Utah. So looking at the tackle position, maybe some depth there, maybe try to move him in to the interior line as well. Pick 192 in the 6th round, cornerback DJ James, also out of Auburn. So you're going to get another cornerback. And then at the 207th overall pick, the final pick of the draft for the Seahawks, they went with offensive tackle Michael Jarrell out of Findlay. So that was interesting. So we go from there, and then we go to the undrafted rookies, which there's quite a bit. There's always, none of these have really been confirmed by the team yet, but this is all what's been reported. It all comes really from a bunch of different things, whether it's their agents, the players themselves will essentially confirm it, and sometimes the beat reporters for the different teams, whether it's collegiately or for the Seahawks themselves, will put these out. So we've got a list here of these undrafted players. Quarterback. So we got a quarterback, Siobhan Cordero out of San Jose State. The Seahawks didn't draft a quarterback. Obviously, that's notable. A lot of folks were wondering if they did, but considering the trade for Sam Howell, there was some writing on the wall for that. The Seahawks had to, get a third quarterback on the roster at some point. For now, there is another one that we'll look at. Cordero was there, first reported by NFL reporter Aaron Wilson. He's a 6'1", 196-pound quarterback, the career leader in the Mountain West Conference for total yards at 13,811 and completions. That also included 4 seasons at Hawaii. Which is pretty cool. Running back George Halani out of Boise State. He was a guy that had a pre-draft visit with the Seahawks. According to NFL Network, they're signing him to a deal that includes a $15,000 signing bonus and $100,000 base salary guarantee. Tight end Jack Westover. Westover's fun at the University of Washington. The former Husky and Mount Si High graduate who also had some time at O'Day High School, so shout out O'Day, stays in his hometown. According to NFL Network, he attended the NFL Scouting Combine but was unable to take part in drills because of a hand injury that he's dealing with. Westover got a deal that includes a $25,000 signing bonus and a $50,000 salary guarantee for a total of $75K. He'll now battle with A.J. Barner, as we mentioned, as well as Noah Fant and Pharaoh Brown, as first reported by Aaron Wilson. Defensive lineman Nelson Caesar out of Houston, also reported by NFL Network. Caesar is a 6'3", 250-pound defensive lineman, attending the Senior Bowl and the Combine after leading the Big 12 in sacks in 2023. Linebacker Easton Gibbs out of Wyoming. Gibbs is a 6'2", 230-pound linebacker, primarily a weak side linebacker at Wyoming, tallying 109 tackles and 2 sacks this past season. Offensive tackle Garrett Greenfield out of South Dakota State. He's a 6'7", 320-pound big man on the offensive tackle position, starting 15 games at left tackle last season for South Dakota State. He started 14 games the year prior at right tackle for a team that won the FCS title. Cornerback Roe Terrence out of Arizona State. This is more of your Seahawks type corner, 6'3", 200-pound corner, long-limbed press corner with some physical attributes that certain teams are really going to covet. Obviously, Seattle did. Great with the press, can add some crouch and jabs. He has the tools to help smother some simple routes, but can work on some gaining separation. Avoiding separation and sharper breaking points. So interested to see there. He's not the best tackler as well. Center Mike Nowitzki out of Kansas. Center was a position I thought maybe the team would address in this draft, but they did not. So they go with the UDFA route. Kansas themselves actually confirmed this. So the 6'5", 305-pound center began his career at Buffalo before he ended up transferring and becoming a 3-year starter for the Jayhawks. Edge rusher Sundiata Anderson out of Grambling State, 6'5", 240-pound edge rusher, had 12 sacks over the past 2 seasons. Defensive tackle DeVare Levelston out of SMU, 6'5", 290-pounder who had 19 tackles and 1.5 sacks this past season. Running back Tamarick Williams out of North Dakota State, 6'1", 227-pound back, led the Bison of North Dakota State with 767 yards, averaging 6.2 yards per carry in 2023. Wide receiver Hayden Hatton out of Idaho, a 6'2", 205-pound pass catcher from Scottsdale, Arizona. He had 93 catches for 1,231 yards and 9 touchdowns last season, finishing his Idaho career with a school record 33 TDs, receiving, that is. Cornerback Carlton Johnson out of Fresno State. The 5'11", 173-pound corner was unable to participate at the combine, but did run a 4.28 40 at Fresno State's Pro Day in March and was listed as the 3rd best cornerback who was left undrafted by NFL.com. And he did have a pre-draft 30 visit to the Seahawks. And defensive lineman Rayson Williams II out of Louisiana Tech, 6'4", 280-pounder, had 25 tackles and 2.5 sacks this past season after transferring from Stephen F. Austin. Stephen F. Austin? Tagovailoa. Sorry, I have to get this because not Tua. Tua's brother. Sorry, I'm trying to get this here. Tuila, his brother out of Maryland, has a rookie camp invite to the Seahawks as well. So there we go. Sorry, was trying to get that all in order. That was a mess. I don't know. A lot of the outlets around the league that cover the team or even locally do have a positive look or grade on the Seahawks for this draft. I think it's solid. I mean, you look at, the first few picks going with Murphy, going with Haynes. That's good. Knight's intriguing. He looked like a tackle machine at UTEP. Barner, I'm, a blocking tight end. I'm not really moved. And Pritchett should be fun. So you look at those first 5 picks and, again, Barner, we'll see. I mean, he could be a really valuable piece to this, but you look at those guys, 2 of the guys in the trenches, you add to the front 7, and then you look at Pritchett, who could, be a nice piece in this DB room, one that, where Tariq Woolen's trying to have a bounce back year of sorts next year. Devon Witherspoon's going to have his sophomore season. And then you look at, the last 3 picks with James, another cornerback at Auburn, and then the 2 tackles. You're really trying to solidify things. You're not necessarily going for the big position players. But that's not the biggest deal in the world. And then the undrafted free agents can really be a big boost there. You never know who's going to come out as a diamond in the rough. But with all of this, Seattle, because of the draft picks that they have and the contracts that they're going to have, Seattle needs to clear about $3 million, I believe, in cap space to sign these guys. So it'll be interesting to see how this all goes and how that all plays out. So we'll look ahead here with Seattle being one of the 8 teams that has a new coach in 2024 per NFL rules. Mike McDonald and his staff will conduct a voluntary minicamp that began. There was that minicamp from April 22nd to 24th to kick off phase 2 of the offseason program. Phase 3 of the offseason program starts May 20th as the Seahawks will conduct 10 organized team activity workouts through June the 6th. McDonald will also hold a mandatory minicamp from June 11th to 13th to wrap up the offseason program. Per rules, no live contact is permitted during this period, but 7-on-7, 9-on-7, and 11-on-11 team drills will be allowed along with individual and group drills. During the 2 weeks following this draft that we just talked about, all 32 NFL teams will be allowed to host a 3-day rookie minicamp, which we talked about Tagovailoa, his brother. The league has yet to announce the official dates for the minicamps, last I saw. But in the past, Seattle has hosted draft picks, undrafted rookies, and tryout players on one of the 2 weekends after the draft. So as we get it, we'll put that information out for you. We look over here to the Mariners after getting away from our Seahawks segment of the show. It's a good week. It was a good week. We'll talk about it here. We'll go into it immediately, starting off with the end of the road trip. Starting against Colorado and the Rockies, and the snowstorm I talked about ended down in Texas in that big, ugly warehouse of a stadium where the Mariners played the first of 2 series back-to-back against the teams that were in the World Series this past season. April 23rd to begin that series at the Texas Rangers, a 4-0 win, an impressive shutout victory over the defending champs. They're not really playing like the defending champs right now, but shutting any team out, especially a team like the Rangers with the firepower that they have, is impressive. Our player of the game is catcher Cal Raleigh. 2 hits, 1 run, 2 RBIs, a 2-run homer started the scoring off and put Seattle ahead, a lead that they would never look back from. April 24th at the Rangers, the Mariners weren't able to get the series win that day in Game 2. They would drop this one 1-5. Our player of the game, third baseman Josh Rojas. Rojas, 2 hits and 1 run, including a triple that he hit to begin this game off in the leadoff spot. April 25th at the Rangers, the Mariners get the series win, this time in the series finale, in the rubber match, a 4-3 victory. Our player of the game, third baseman Luis Urias, 1 hit, 1 run, 2 RBIs. His 2-run homer gave the Mariners a 4-2 lead at the time. They would need it, as it would become 4-3 later in the game, and they'd have to hold on to get that win there. That was big. You take the series over the Rangers, and you put yourself back atop the AL West for this current point in time. They returned immediately to Seattle following this and began a new homestand April 26th the next day versus the Arizona Diamondbacks. So the National League representative from the World Series last year, winning that Friday game 6-1. Our player of the game, right fielder Mitch Haniger, 1 hit, 1 run, 4 RBIs. That hit was a grand slam, the 3rd grand slam of Mitch's career. It was really big. The Mariners were only leading 2-1 when we approached the 6th inning. The bases got loaded. Mitch deposits this grand slam, just hitting the outfield wall in left center, but going into the Mariners bullpen for the homer. The grand slam was a big one there, and the Mariners are able to take the series win. The win there to begin the series. They would win the series with their next game, April 27th, versus the Diamondbacks, a 3-1 victory, as George Kirby, our player of the game, was rock solid, which also happened to be April 27th is the birthday of the video game character Kirby The game Kirby's Dream Land came out April 27th, 1992. So that's the de facto birthday for the character Kirby. And he just happened to be pitching. George Kirby was pitching that day. George, 7 innings pitched, 2 hits, no runs allowed, 1 walk, 12 Ks, an ultra quality start. And because I was able to pull out that Kirby's birthday stat, our friend Alex Mayer over with Mariners PR had this stat. If you're not aware, Alex, after every Mariners win this season, will come up with the hashtag, the Mayer game-winning stat. It goes, as you can see on your screen, George Kirby has a .6 ERA in 2 career starts on April 27th, setting a career high with 12 Ks tonight. April 27th is the anniversary of the first Kirby video game, Kirby's Dream Land, released on April 27th, 1992. Thank you, Alex, for that. I really appreciate it. It was really cool. Alex is great with numbers. He's great to have around, covering this team. is a great resource as well. So really appreciative of him for that. So they take the series win there. It's their 4th consecutive series win for the Mariners. They look to get the sweep the next day, the series finale on Sunday, April 28th. They were not able to do that. A tough one, a 2-3 loss. Our player of the game, third baseman Josh Rojas. Rojas, 1 hit, 1 run, 1 RBI, including a leadoff homer in the bottom of the 1st inning. Before we talk about the past week, excuse me, I got the burps. Our player of the week, talking about Rojas, is Josh Rojas. Over the last 7 days, Rojas has played in 5 games. He's got 5 hits, 5 runs, 1 double, 1 triple, and 2 homers, driving in 2 runs, has 1 walk, a .737 slugging percentage, and a 1.037 OPS. So Josh, since going in because of an injury that we'll talk about when we get to the injury-related news part of the show, really has done some great work as the leadoff hitter for the Mariners, has played a great third base, and just continues to show why, as Scott Service calls him, he is a great baseball player. We look at it here, with this past week. I mean, you look at these past 6 games, right? Where you've got the defending champion Texas Rangers, the team that lost to them in the World Series in the Arizona Diamondbacks, and you take 4 of those 6 games. It's hard to be upset. That loss to the Rangers, not great. The Mariners were largely in that one for a while. Just, the 1 run, not able to do anything. Bryce Miller allows 2 homers. That's tough. And then the loss on Sunday to the Diamondbacks, you were in it. You really had a chance in the 3rd inning against Brandon Pfaadt when the bases were loaded with no outs. Ty France flies out to left field. It's not deep enough to drive a run in. And then Mitch Garver grounds out into a double play. That's unfortunate. That's an area where you need to come through, knock the starter out, put runs on the board. You're able to get a run later to bring it within 1, but no dice. So, largely happy with things, but as I've talked about in our recaps that we write after these games, it's me, especially after the win on the 27th, there needs to be this, it's like you can be happy with the win while also understanding that the team needs to be better. Even in the win over the game 1 win over the Diamondbacks, Mitch Haniger was like, there's still things you need to learn about. Mitch very much seems driven to understand that, hey, that you got to keep working, you got to keep chipping away, you got to keep improving. And that's something that the team has talked about, whether it's Service pregame or postgame, or the players throughout the course of the team that we've spoken to. So, I was a little concerned with the win on the 27th because you needed that homer from Ty France to give you the lead. You strike out a lot. They struck on the 28th. They struck out 15 times. They didn't draw a single walk. The strikeout issues are there. You got to be better in the swing decisions. Pfaadt is a great pitcher. Don't get me wrong there. But, there's still areas of this game at the plate that the Mariners need to improve upon. The approach seems to be getting better. Progress isn't always linear. They're not always going to get better every single game. But just, looking at it as this is a good week. You win 4 of the 6 you played. You're atop the AL West right now. But there are things you need to improve upon and make sure that you're improving upon them and working at them and not getting complacent, so that when we get into the later months of the season, we don't have to worry about, you're counting wins here and there, or it's too late to improve upon them. So that's my point with that. So we look over here to injury-related news. On the 26th, at the beginning of every homestand, General Manager Justin Hollander brings up a bunch of different injury updates. You've seen it on your screen here, the list of the players, and I'll provide the details of what those updates are. So Brian Wu, who we have seen over the course of the series against the Diamondbacks around T-Mobile Park, he was listed as dealing with right elbow inflammation. There's an expected return date for him. It's mid-May. He made his 2nd rehab start with AAA Tacoma on April 27th, throwing 49 pitches to get through 3 1/3 innings, striking out 6. In his first start with the Rainiers on April 21st, he threw 3 perfect innings, striking out 5 on 35 pitches, 25 of which were strikes. He opened the season on the 15-day IL after he couldn't get loose during his last bullpen session and had to cut it short. He had yet to pitch more than 4 innings during a start. in spring training. Hollander does expect him to need another rehab start before he's good to go, but otherwise they're happy with what they have seen there. We'll save Matt Brash for later because we have an update on that. J.P. Crawford, the reason why Josh Rojas has been hitting leadoff and is playing shortstop is because J.P. Crawford is dealing with a grade 1 right oblique strain. We don't have a clear timeline on him. Service didn't have one, but Hollander used the term weeks when talking about that. JP sustained this injury, had an awkward swing during the last few rounds of batting practice on the 24th, ahead of the game against the Rangers. He had an MRI which revealed a grade 1 strain. Didn't have any updates in terms of estimate from Hollander, but he said it's beyond the 10-day injured list stay that he's got. And that they could have some updates in about a week, potentially. On the 28th, we did see him around 4 days after suffering that strain. He was on the field before the game on the 28th against Arizona, taking some ground balls, jogging a little bit in the outfield, but he wasn't throwing. He wasn't really twisting. Seems like he's kind of a slow progression. I did say it was painful to cough, sit, and make some general movements, but he is feeling better than just a few days ago. Still, the timeline remains the same, but nice to see that little update on the Sunday. Outfielder Dom Canzone, who's dealing with a left AC joint sprain. The expected return date's about mid-May at the earliest. He began a throwing and jogging routine with the plan to begin a hitting program next week. If all goes well, per Hollander, he estimates Canzone to be 2 to 3 weeks out from full baseball activities. Edward Bazardo, relief pitcher who had been dealing with some right shoulder soreness, began a rehab assignment with AAA Tacoma on April 23rd, throwing a scoreless 7th inning. Bazardo missed all of spring training with a rotator cuff strain, but did resume throwing, and the Mariners are hopeful that he'll return to game action near the end. Were hopeful that he'd return to action near the end of April. He initially suffered the injury in a side session prior to arriving physicals for spring training in Arizona. So yes, mid-May is some expected there. Gregory Santos, late May at the earliest is probably when we'll see Santos. The transaction, well, we'll get to that with team news. Santos is already expected to be sidelined, decent amount of time. He'll probably get back to, we'll get to the update here. Sorry, I'm trying to keep the team news separate from these updates here. Santos has begun throwing at 120 feet with the goal to do that for another week before he increases intensity with those throws. He initially experienced shoulder soreness at the start of spring training, but did have a setback by a lat strain during a bullpen session while ramping up, so that was unfortunate, but some positive updates for him as well. Matt Brash, this one's tough. When we got all these updates from Hollander, we heard from Hollander that he was trending well as well. He was supposed to throw a rehab assignment on the 27th with the Rainiers, but we heard from Hollander that day, the day after we got all these updates initially, that he had been shut down before that because he had dealt with a setback. With Brash, where is it here? Where'd it go? Oh, yeah. With Brash, they're going to send him to visit Dr. Keith Meister for a second time to determine a further course of action. Meister is a renowned doctor for these pitching sort of injuries. Brash had been experiencing soreness in his elbow after throwing 2 bullpen sessions to begin spring training, but received initial word from Meister that he wasn't going to need surgery. He was doing a throwing program on the night of the 26th, and the quote from Brash was that after every throw, every throw felt bad, which isn't great. So it was interesting to hear Hollander use the word concerned several times when talking about Brash. So that's not great at all to hear about that. He threw and did not feel good at all. Hollander, I think his words were, every throw felt bad. He met with the team physician that night, and they were concerned. He's since returned to Arizona and is waiting up a follow-up appointment with Meister in Texas. Yeah, not great. Hollander, there's a quote. It's sort of been a pattern over time. His stuff is great when he goes out there. He's touching 99, sitting 96, 97, 98. But each progressive outing, he has not bounced back, and he's bounced back slower each time. So they're concerned with how he's feeling after he's throwing these sessions, which is not great. So we'll get directly to the team news that I alluded to. On the 25th, infielder Leo Rivas was selected from AAA Tacoma. Infielder J.P. Crawford was placed on the 10-day IL with that right oblique strain, that grade 1. And Gregory Santos was transferred to the 60-day IL with that right latissimus dorsi strain. But as I mentioned a little bit, it's not expecting to mess with his timeline at all. This is just about when he was going to be ready anyway, and it's retroactive to when he suffered the injury initially. So the Mariners sit at a 15-13 record, which is good for first in the American League West. They're continuing a 6-game homestand when they host the Atlanta Braves for 3 games, starting on April 29th. And April 29th and the 30th are both 6:40 p.m. starts. April 29th, though, is a Bark at the Park night. And then May 1st versus the Braves, the getaway game to end the homestand, is a 12:40 p.m. first pitch. May 3rd, they begin a road trip starting down in Texas against the Astros, the first time that the Mariners will play the Astros this year. May 3rd is a 5:10 p.m. first pitch. May 4th at the Astros is a 4:15 p.m. first pitch. And May 15th at the Astros is an 11:10 a.m. first pitch. Before we get over to the Storm segment, I will throw it over to myself and Jen Barnes to tell you where to best watch those road games against the Astros and all Mariners road games right here. So we'll throw it to that.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, how about the Zaps?
Oh, I'm excited.
I know. Where are you going to watch all those away games, though?
Away games. I was thinking of coming here since, after all, Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports.
I love that idea. Hope to see y'all here.
Taking it from myself and Jen there, we look over here to the Storm segment of the show. And first, again, before we get into anything Storm related, I want to shout out our writer, Christian. Christian's been working hard to get some of these stories out. Did a great deep dive on Nika Mule. You can find all of that on our website, circlingseattlesports.com. He's doing some great work. I'm really excited for what we've got cooking up with Storm season on the way here. Training camp began yesterday, the 28th. So really exciting there. Christian's been doing a great job. So a hat tip to him, and looking forward to what we're able to do throughout the course of the season. So we'll get into it. We go straight to team notes here. On the 24th, it was announced that the Storm ownership group, Force 10 Hoops, was pleased to announce that Sue Bird will be joining that ownership group. Obviously, we can recount Sue's accolades here, and we will. Her illustrious playing career spanned over 20 seasons with the Storm, all of them with the Storm, including 4 WNBA titles, 13 All-Star Game appearances, 8 All-WNBA teams, and 5 Olympic gold medals. Her importance to the franchise cannot be overstated. Again, we'll go over the list here of accolades. She was selected first overall by Seattle in 2002. She played 19 seasons with the Storm and was with the team for 21 of the franchise's first 23 seasons of existence. Bird retired as the WNBA's all-time leading assist leader, finishing her career with 3,234 assists. She was honored as one of the WNBA's milestone teams, honored on each of the WNBA's milestone teams, including the All-Decade team in 2006, the top 15 players in 2011, the top 20 at 20 in 2016, and was named to the W25 team in 2021 as one of the 25 greatest and most influential players in league history. The Storm obviously is one of the most successful franchises on the court in the WNBA, winning 4 championships and making 18 playoff appearances in 24 seasons. The ownership group, obviously, as we talked about last week, recently opened the Seattle Storm Center for Basketball Performance, the new $64 million practice facility showcasing the Storm's pioneering vision for the future of women's basketball. Off the court, the organization leverages its community-building platforms to contribute to the Puget Sound's economic growth. The Storm actively expresses its embrace of diversity, equity, and inclusion through its practice of fighting for social and racial justice across the country. This work through Force for Change includes amplifying Black women leaders and encouraging investment in Black communities. In addition, with its focus on fitness and health, the Storm promotes local youth development in the areas of leadership and sports with an emphasis on girls and women. By the time you're seeing this, we'll have had a press conference with Bird and co-owner Lisa Brummel to discuss this big news here as Bird joins the ownership group. So looking directly ahead, we do have some stuff from this team, B-roll related to the Storm opening up training camp. So we'll throw that to it right over here so you can see that before we look ahead for the Storm as they go through training camp and have preseason games. Looking at those clips there with some B-roll from training camp, and you get a first look of some players here on your screen in Storm colors. We go training camp did begin on the 28th. We'll have updates from that, some stories out of training camp, and obviously coverage of the regular season from myself, Christian, and some more. We're going to add some more. But preseason games, the next preseason game to look at within the next week is May 4th versus Los Angeles. This is on the road, technically, because it's at Edmonton. This is WNBA's Canada game. So it'll be exciting there. It did have to get moved back, as we talked about last week, because of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs between the Edmonton Oilers and the Los Angeles Kings. So with that, we look also to myself and Jen to where you can watch all the Storm away games throughout the course of the season, including that preseason game in Edmonton. So myself and Jen, take it away.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, where are you going to watch the Seattle Storm away games this year?
Away games. Well, Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports. So I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. See you all here.
From there, we move into our Sounders segment of the show, and as I've talked about at the head of the show just about every time, The soccer teams in the city continue to struggle, which is unfortunate. So we'll look into it. The Sounders were on the road, just like the Reign were. The Sounders at DC United on April 27th, falling by a score of 1-2. Our player of the match, left wing Leo Chu. Chu, a 7.2 match rating, 1 goal and 1 shot. This was another wild game that featured another red card for the Sounders, just like last week against the Vancouver Whitecaps. This one came as Stefan Fry was called for denial of a goal-scoring opportunity, which not great. Those are never great, and really kind of derailed the momentum that the Sounders had. It was a pretty interesting first half because just 5 minutes in, DC United had Christopher McVeigh shown a yellow card in the 5th minute. In the 14th minute, Leo Chu had a header goal assisted by Jordan Morris, and that was great. That was wonderful. Denny Musovski had to come off in the 21st minute, so Obed Vargas came in. In the 28th minute, Stefan Fry was called for that denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. So Andrew Thomas had to come on and goal, and Leo Chu was taken out as the Sounders go down to 10 men and had to play defensive. With the penalty, Christian Benteke scored to tie things up, and then the cards started to fly. Lucas Bartlett in the 38th minute and Jared Stroud in the 42nd minute for DC United were shown yellows, and Jordan Morris in the 41st was shown a yellow for Seattle. Benteke scored in the 45th minute right before half to give DC the 2-1 lead, as assisted by Aaron Herrera. And, unfortunately, the Sounders were the better team in the second half. They looked better on the attack, which is incredible considering that they were down to 10 men. But ultimately, it didn't matter because they didn't equalize. No points were gained. They remain just with the 1 in the win column, and frustrations continue in Sounders land. In injury-related news, thankfully, there's one player out of the fully out list. But we added another player when it comes to questionable, which isn't ideal or great. Both Pedro de la Vega and Bradilio Rodriguez continue to be out with hamstring injuries. Obviously last week we talked about the Pedro de la Vega injury. But Reed Baker-Whiting, I moved around my notes here. Reed Baker-Whiting is questionable now with a hamstring injury. He did not get into the game. Nathan, defender Nathan, was questionable with a hip injury and did not get any game action, I don't believe. So, yeah, both Nathan and Reed Baker-Whiting questionable, but did not play. So we go straight into team-related notes for the Sounders. We'll talk about it, this match afterwards and kind of where they're at, even though there's not a lot to talk about. April 23rd, the team traded defender Javier Arriaga to the New England Revolution. Seattle receives a 2025 international roster slot and future general allocation money considerations. The Ecuadorian center back made 120 appearances across all competitions for the Red Green from 2019 to 2024. Arriaga came to Seattle in May of 2019 and helped the Sounders raise the MLS Cup trophy that season, appearing in 17 matches across all comps, including a start in the club's Western Conference Championship win at LAFC. The Ecuador native started 81 of his 100 total appearances in MLS regular season action, recording 3 goals and 2 assists. He was named to the CONCACAF Champions League Best 11 squad after starting all 8 matches during the Sounders' historic championship run. Arriaga also started all 3 of Seattle's matches during its runner-up finish in Leagues Cup of 2021. Arriaga has 20 career appearances for the Ecuador national team as a member of La Tri's final roster at the 2022 FIFA World Cup. He made 9 appearances in World Cup qualifying matches, scoring his lone international goal in a 6-1 win over Colombia on November 17th, 2020. Prior to coming to MLS, Arriaga played for Barcelona SC of the Ecuadorian top flight, where he appeared in 78 of 79. He started 78 of 79 appearances over 4 seasons. So, first with the match, I mean, you want to be happy with the fact that they scored first, right? You look at the fact that DC United got a goal off a penalty. You played down a man. It was kind of wacky with the referee and the officiating with the cards in this match. And the fact that they were, they looked like the better team with the eye test in the second half. But at the end of the day, again, with where you're at right now and how much you've struggled to begin the season, the eye test, and the moral victories and the stuff that isn't actual points doesn't really matter to a lot of folks, whether it's in the organization, the players on the field, or in the standings, right? Even if you are able to make this sort of historic turnaround and get to the playoffs this year, you screwed yourself out of better positioning, so on and so forth, because of the struggles early on, because you weren't able to be better, because you didn't figure things out, early into the season. So, as I kind of said, there's not a lot to talk about. There isn't really, because, they've had parts of these losses to begin the season where you're like, oh, they were the better team. They just didn't get their chances. As I've said, that doesn't matter in the standings. The other teams aren't going to be like, oh, well, they didn't, they're getting chances. We should just play worse, or we should lay off. That's just not how that works. So, you don't have any, but there's no excuses right now. You're out. Again, Pedro, that's great. As I talked about with my feelings about how Brian Schmetzer brought that up when evaluating the team last week. But even when you get him back, I mean, are all your problems solved? If he comes back and they just start just rattling off wins, then sure. I'll praise the guy like he's the next deity. But that's just not how it's going to be. That's not how it should be, and it's not how it should be viewed. So we'll move on. The Sounders sit at a 1-win, 5-loss, 3-draw record, 6 points on the season so far. In the standings, the Sounders are 27th overall. That's just, they're ahead of 2 teams in all of MLS. They're the 3rd worst team in the league, and they're 13th in the Western Conference. Looking ahead, the Sounders have 2 matches to play over the upcoming week. April 30th at the Philadelphia Union with a 4:30 p.m. Kickoff time. This is to make up that rained-out match from earlier in the season. Seattle has to largely keep the same starting lineup that they had from this match since it went 6 minutes in, except for Javier Arriaga, obviously, because he got traded. So I believe that Seattle can put someone in who, wasn't involved to fill his spot. And then in the weekend back at home, May 5th versus the LA Galaxy with a interesting 3:45 p.m. kickoff time that can be viewed on Apple TV, MLS Season Pass, as well as FS1. To talk to you about where you can watch that match against the Philadelphia Union on the road, I'll throw it to myself and Jen once again.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey. So where are you going to watch all of the Sounder away games this year?
Away games for the Sounders. Since Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, I was thinking of coming here, if that's okay with you.
I think that's a great idea. Go Sounders. Hope we see y'all here.
Moving over here into our Kraken segment of the show, we're in the off-season now. The Stanley Cup playoffs are continuing, but some more off-season things are happening and stuff that affects our Firebirds, like our friend RJ talked about last week. So we'll get into that. On the 24th, the team signed defenseman Caden Price to his entry-level contract. The Kraken signed the 2023 third-round pick to an entry-level contract. It's a 3-year, 2-way contract at $908,000 AAV. It is set to begin next season, and he is expected to report to Seattle's AHL affiliate, the Coachella Valley Firebirds, on an amateur tryout contract for the remainder of the season. Price, a 6'1", 185-pound defenseman, recorded 55 points, 13 goals, and 42 assists across 62 regular season games with the Kelowna Rockets of the WHL this past year, establishing WHL career highs in goals, assists, points, power play goals, and points per game. Despite playing in 3 fewer games this season, Price saw his point total increase by 15. His 55 points this season topped Kelowna Blue Liners and ranked 12th amongst all WHL defensemen, with his efforts earning him all WHL second-team honors at the conclusion of the regular season. Price added 11 points, 1 goal, 10 assists in 11 playoff games with the Rockets, which ranked 4th among his team's skaters and led Kelowna defensemen. Price has spent his entire WHL career with the Rockets, totaling 116 points, 20 goals, 96 assists in 174 regular season games over the course of 3 seasons. He was named his team's top defenseman in both 2022-23 and 23-24 after leading Kelowna Blue Liners in scoring both seasons. a native of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Price represented Canada at the IIHF 2023 U18 World Junior Championship, helping take home a bronze medal. He also donned the maple leaf at the 2022 Hlinka Gretzky Cup, where he won a gold medal. Price was selected in the third round, 83rd overall by the Kraken this past year. Immediately going over to probably the biggest news of the offseason so far for the Kraken. The next day, it was announced by the team that starting next season, all non-nationally televised games for the Kraken will be broadcast on Kong, with 15 games simulcast on King 5 in Seattle. King 5 becomes the official TV partner of the Kraken, taking you behind the scenes with exclusive Kraken content and game coverage throughout the course of the season. Aquash, Washington, Oregon, and Alaska Prime members, Amazon Prime Video members, will be able to stream games on Prime with no additional cost. The big announcement, and one that a lot of people were wondering about potentially, John Forsland, JT Brown, Eddie Olczyk, Allison Lukan, and Nick Olczyk will all stay together as the Kraken's broadcast team. Games will be broadcast free over the air in Portland and Spokane. Additional TV markets will be added in the coming months across Washington, Oregon, and Alaska. Also in the release, it says to stay tuned as more exciting broadcast announcements will be made coming later this summer. I'll let you think about what those different announcements could be. I don't want to speculate on it, just because, some people that I know are involved and people I consider friends. But, I mean, in my personal opinion, this is really big for growing the Kraken's fan base. You look at Root, and I've grown up with Root, watching the Mariners games all the time. It's been really cool to interact with folks that I've been watching on Root, as I've grown up. I've got a lot of friends who work for Root, so it's understandably tough. Change is tough. But I know that with the price increase, that was something that was frustrating for folks. A lot of folks under some of our Kraken content would be like, oh, I wish I could watch the games. And I have to be like, well, I can only do so much. We're an independent news outlet. I can't do anything about that. But, making these things free to watch, free to stream on Amazon Prime Video is big. You want to grow your fan base. You want to get more people in this area of the Pacific Northwest to watch hockey, specifically Kraken hockey, and to become Kraken fans. This allows you to do that. Obviously the ticket prices are one thing, and then it'd be like, oh, I'll watch the game at home. A lot of people couldn't because of Root. They didn't want to pay for it, so on and so forth. Or they didn't have cable, right? So, giving them the options here is going to be big. I think it's going to help, and especially as a potential NBA team looms in terms of getting, the interest of fans and the attention of fans in the area. Doing something like this is a great step to help growing your fan base and growing your reach in this area in the immediate term. So obviously adding free agents would help with that, or making some big trades as well would help with that, but that's later in the offseason. So that's that. We'll go over here to the Reign side of things, and as I talked about with the Sounders, lots of struggle, lots of pain for the Reign as well. So we get into it with their away match, April 27th at the North Carolina Courage. As I mentioned last week, the Courage sat at 4th in the NWSL table when we came into this match. The Reign were unable to knock off number 4 as they would lose by a score of 0-1. Getting shut out's never great. It's never fun. This was tough just because 5 minutes into the match, Seattle lost Quinn to an injury and had to sub on Olivia Vanderyacht. It's tough because Quinn had been dealing with a concussion, suffered when they were away with Team Canada, and had just recently really gotten back into the swing of things. And here, they have to come out pretty early on, I believe. Yeah, it was the 5th minute. So Tyler Lucy scores in the 37th minute, assisted by Ashley Sanchez. So the Courage get that goal right before half. The Reign battled throughout this one. I'm not going to say that they didn't. The Reign battled pretty hard consistently through this one. I mean, if you look at the statistics, they didn't have the better shots on target. But they did have 4 big chances. So, the opportunities were there for the Reign. Just kind of the story with the Sounders as well. They were not able to pull that one out, which is frustrating, very frustrating, and just tough to deal with. it's really hard with the rain right now. Just because there's a lot of talent here. You try to be pretty happy with building and getting forward, but that's just not something that they can do. We look over here at the injury report. Nobody questionable. Both forward Jordan Huitema and goalkeeper Claudia Dickey remain out. In the pre-match press conference ahead of this game, Harvey was asked for some injury updates on both of those. She said, when asked if she had any injury updates, she said, no, not really. Both are weeks, not days away, but both are trending in a really positive direction, which is great. She mentioned that they both could be back by mid-May, but that's not a guarantee. So, yeah, again, there's not a whole lot to really dissect and go into and talk about in terms of if there's anything complicated happening here. They're creating chances. They're close. They're there. They're not fully able to put things away, whether it be their chances or some of these games, and it's tough. It's tough. You're without two big contributors or players who could be contributors right now with Huitema and Dickey out. And you're in a free fall. You're looking for any way to grab a hold of something to stop that free fall and get back into the winning ways. You return home this upcoming week, but it's going to be a busy month of May, and you're not gonna get a break. You're really not gonna get a break. Coach Harvey talks all the time about trying to get some good training in to help learn, help grow, help build. They're not gonna get too much of that, so it's gonna be tough. But the only way around all these issues or to deal with these issues is going through them directly. Last week, Jess Fishlock and Lou Barnes talked about, how this is something that they're going to have to work through, look themselves in the mirror and work through. And that continues to be the same goal. So we look at it here. The Reign sit at a 1-win, 5-loss, no draw record. They're fourth in the league table, which is the very bottom, with 3 standing points. Looking ahead, their next match is May 3rd at home versus the San Diego Wave. It's a 7 o'clock kickoff time. That's on Amazon Prime Video to watch there. We wrap up our show with the Seawolves segment. While they were on a bye week over the course of the past week, sitting at that 7-1 record, there's a few things I'll throw to you at this moment in time as they get back home to return to regular season action this upcoming weekend. They have announced for the first time they will be offering pitch side seats for the next 4 home matches. We'll put a photo up there for you. I've been pitch side to cover these matches before for the Seawolves. There's nothing really like it. You get up close and personal. You can hear the match. You can see these guys up close. You can see how it all takes place. We'll put pricing on the screen as well. They start at $30. It's pretty impressive. So look into that. We'll talk about the Seawolves. Charles Elton's the top tackler in the MLR so far this season. The Seawolves continue to roll. It's their best start in franchise history. They've been pretty active around the community as well. Their next match is against, let's say it here, May 3rd versus Anthem RC, a 7:30 p.m. start time. This will be on Fox 13 Plus and the Rugby Network. We look at Anthem RC. They've struggled this year. They are 0-8. Their last match was a 40-5 loss at the hands of NOLA. But, you got to take everybody the same way. You got to look at them. It's another week. You got to go out and win. And the Seawolves will look to do that when they return to action next week. We do have a special ticket link for the rest of the home matches this season. That will be in the description of the main show and the Seawolves segment as well. We wrap up things, before we close the show out, I want to say we do have Circling Seattle Sports merch. I bring some of it into the picture here as it's off screen. CirclingSeattleSports.com. We have the merch tab is open. It was there for a while to begin, and people are like, where's the merch? That was a year ago. So now we've got the merch in. We've got keychains as of late. These aren't on the website, but I will be selling these because I got them made to order. And I've got pins as well. I'm going to give away a few pins. We'll start selling them as well. And then if you ever see me out and about, whether it's out and about in the city or at a Seattle sports event, I do give away stickers on hand. We do have stickers if you're not in the area or you just want to support on the website. They're die cut stickers, which is nice. But, this support not only helps our team in terms of getting them, accurately compensated, but it also is something that, really is nice to help us grow, whether it's improving our coverage, improving how things look for you and the presentation side of things, and just supporting our work, So we've got a few fun things on there, so go and check that out. Until we see you next week, we're going to be in May already. Take care of yourselves, be well, and do whatever you can to make today a great day. I love you. I appreciate every single one of you, and we'll see you soon.